Eddie Martinez follows the same routine every night at 11 p.m. He's 68 years old, janitor at Strike Zone Bowling Alley. He starts wiping down the lanes, sanitizes the shoes, puts the bowling balls back in their places. He is the same silence, the same peace for 15 years. Until tonight, when he lifts bowling ball number 5 and hears something metal rattling inside. And when he opens it, sees what he finds inside the ball. Plastic explosive, timer, and a note. Written in Arabic, but Eddie understands it perfectly. Hello, Eddie Martinez. Or should I say Sergeant Martinez? 20 years ago in Iraq, you killed my family. Now we'll be watching your family. And a photograph. Eddie's 35-year-old daughter Lisa, grandchildren Jack and Emma. Taken this morning in front of the school. Eddie's hand is shaking, but he doesn't pull away. Because this isn't just one bowling ball. This means the same bomb is inside each of the 147 bowling balls. And tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., there's a school field trip with 3 children here. But that's not the most shocking part. The real shocking part is that Eddie Martinez's real name is Sergeant Edwin Bombshell Martinez, Delta Force's most famous bomb disposal expert, the man who supposedly died in Fallujah 15 years ago. And now his enemy has discovered he works at the same bowling alley. The last line in the note, we're waiting for you at 3 o'clock a.m. Come alone, or tomorrow you will lose 300 children and your family. This time you can't escape, Bombshell. Eddie has 2 choices. Either call the police and expose his 15-year secret identity, or at 68 years old, go on his final bomb disposal mission. With one difference, this time he'll be fighting against an enemy who knows exactly how he thinks. Welcome to Human Stories. Before we dive into this incredible tale of hidden identity and a deadly game played with America's favorite pastime, tell me in the comments where you're watching from tonight. And if you believe stories about unsung heroes deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button. Because tonight's story will show you that sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one quietly keeping everything clean. The clock on the wall read 11:07 p.m. when Eddie Martinez clocked in for another night shift at Strike Zone Bowling Alley. At 68, his steps were measured but sure, his gray hair neatly combed, his janitor's uniform pressed despite 15 years of wear. The alley was quiet now, just the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant rumble of the automated pit-setting machines finishing their final cycles. Eddie had worked the same shift for 15 years, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., cleaning lanes, sanitizing rental shoes, polishing bowling balls until they gleamed under the lights. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was honest, quiet, and most importantly, it asked no questions about his past. What the day shift employees didn't know, what nobody in Riverside, Kansas knew, was that Eddie Martinez had once been Sergeant Edwin Bombshell Martinez, the most decorated bomb disposal expert in Delta Force history. Eddie started his routine as always: sweep the customer area, mop the concession floor, then work his way down the 42 lanes, cleaning and polishing each one with the methodical precision that had once saved hundreds of lives in places whose names he could never speak aloud. Lane 1 through 20, spotless. Lane 21 through 40, gleaming. As he approached lane 42, the final lane in the corner where the high school kids liked to hang out during their weekend dates, Eddie noticed something odd. Ball return number 22 wasn't sitting quite right in its rack. The 14-pound ball with the blue swirl pattern was tilted at an angle, as if someone had placed it there hastily. Eddie had been cleaning this place for 15 years. He knew every scratch on every ball, every worn spot, on every lane. Details mattered. In his old life, missing details got people killed. He lifted the ball to examine it, and that's when he heard it. A faint metallic rattling from inside. Eddie's blood turned cold. In 15 years of handling thousands of bowling balls, he'd never heard anything like that. Bowling balls were solid polyurethane or reactive resin, designed to be perfectly balanced. They didn't rattle. His hands moved with muscle memory from another lifetime, feeling along the ball's surface until he found what he was looking for. A nearly invisible seam where the ball had been carefully cut and reglisted. Eddie's heart began to pound with a rhythm he hadn't felt since Fallujah. Using a utility knife from his cleaning cart, he carefully separated the seam. The ball split open like a hollow egg, revealing a nightmare that transported him back 20 years. Inside was a sophisticated explosive device, C4 plastic explosive, a digital timer, and a small piece of paper with Arabic writing. But Eddie could read Arabic. It was one of the skills that had made him valuable to Delta Force. The note was simple and devastating. Hello, Eddie Martinez. Or should I say Sergeant Martinez. 20 years ago in Iraq, you killed my family. Now we will watch you kill yours. Below the text was a photograph that made Eddie's knees buckle. His 35-year-old daughter Lisa walking out of Riverside Elementary School with her children. Eddie's grandchildren, Jack, 8, and Emma, 6. The photo was time-stamped this morning at 5:15 a.m. Eddie's hands shook as he read the rest of the note. This is one of 147 devices hidden throughout your little town. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., 300 children will tour this bowling alley. At 10:30 a.m., they will all die unless you come to lane 1 at 3 a.m. Come alone. Bring no weapons, no police, no backup. This time Bombshell. You can't defuse your way out. The signature at the bottom was in English. Your old friend, Hassan Al-Rashid. Eddie dropped into a nearby chair, his mind reeling. Hassan Al-Rashid. Eddie remembered him well. Flashback, Iraq, 2004. Sergeant Eddie Martinez knelt beside an improvised explosive device that had already killed 3 Marines. The bomb was sophisticated, the work of someone who understood both engineering and psychology. Intelligence had identified the bomb maker, Hassan Al-Rashid, a former electrical engineer turned insurgent leader. Eddie had spent 6 hours defusing the device, sweat pouring down his face despite the desert cold. When he finally rendered it safe and called in the location, an airstrike had taken out Al-Rashid's compound. Eddie had watched the building collapse and assumed, like everyone else, that Hassan was dead. He was wrong, back to present. Eddie forced himself to think like the soldier he'd once been. First assessment. The threat was real and immediate. Second assessment. Hassan knew exactly who Eddie was and where to find him. Third assessment. Eddie had exactly 4 hours to figure out how to save 3 children and his own family. He examined the device more carefully. The construction was elegant, professional, deadly. The timer was set for 10:30 a.m., exactly when the school tour would be in full swing. But there was something else, something that made Eddie's stomach drop. The triggering mechanism wasn't just a timer. It was also equipped with a motion sensor and a radio receiver. The bomb would detonate if tampered with, if moved too quickly, or if Hassan sent a signal. Eddie had dealt with similar devices in Iraq. They were nearly impossible to defuse without the right equipment and expertise. Even for someone with his background, attempting to disarm 147 of them in 4 hours would be suicide. But Eddie Martinez hadn't survived 30 years of military service by accepting impossible odds. He walked to his small office behind the concession stand and opened a locked drawer that hadn't been touched in 15 years. Inside was a phone number written on a piece of paper, yellowed with age. Eddie dialed the number. Thompson. Bill, it's Eddie. A pause. Eddie Martinez? Jesus Christ, Eddie, we thought you were dead. You disappeared 15 years ago. No forwarding address, no contact. Where the hell have you been? Colonel Bill Thompson had been Eddie's commanding officer in Delta Force. A good man, a smart soldier, someone Eddie trusted with his life. Kansas, working as a janitor. A janitor? Eddie, you were the best bomb tech we ever had. Why didn't you? Bill, I need help. My cover's blown, and there are civilians in danger. Thompson's tone immediately became professional. What's the situation? Eddie explained quickly. The bombs, the children, Hassan Al-Rashid. The 3 a.m. deadline. Eddie, you need to call the FBI. This is domestic terrorism. We can't. No time. By the time they mobilize, set up a perimeter, bring in their own bomb techs, those kids are dead. I need you to tell me what you remember about Al-Rashid's signature devices. Thompson was quiet for a moment. Eddie, that was 20 years ago. You're 68 years old. Even if you still remember the techniques, do you really think you can? Bill, I've been polishing bowling balls for 15 years. My hands are steadier than they were in Iraq. My mind is clearer because I'm not running on adrenaline and combat stims. And I know this building better than anyone alive. What do you need? Radio frequency scanner, wire cutters, and everything you can tell me about Al-Rashid's evolution as a bomb maker. Thompson sighed. There's a military supply depot 40 miles south of you. I'll make some calls. You'll have what you need in 2 hours. And Bill? If this goes wrong, make sure they know I tried. Eddie, be careful. Eddie hung up and began the most important reconnaissance mission of his life. He had 2 hours to survey every inch of strike zone bowling alley and identify where Hassan's men had hidden 146 bombs. He started with the obvious locations, inside bowling balls, behind the pin-setting machinery, under the lanes themselves. But Hassan was smarter than that. The devices would be hidden in places that were both accessible for installation and impossible to find without a systematic search. Eddie found the second bomb inside the cotton candy machine, the third in the cash register, the fourth taped under lane 23. Each device was identical to the first, sophisticated, deadly, and equipped with multiple triggering mechanisms. By 1 a.m., Eddie had located 18 bombs. By his calculations, there were 129 more. That's when he heard the front door chime. Eddie, Martinez, a voice called in accented English. I know you're here. Eddie moved carefully toward the front of the building, staying in the shadows. 3 men stood silhouetted against the neon lights of the parking lot. The center figure was older, gray-haired, wearing a long coat despite the warm Kansas night. Hassan Al-Rashid, aged, scarred, but unmistakably alive. Did you find my little gifts? Hassan called. I've had 20 years to plan this, Eddie. 20 years to perfect my craft. 20 years to track down the man who destroyed my family. Eddie stepped into the light. Hassan, Sergeant Martinez, you look ordinary. Disappointing, really. I expected more from the famous Bombshell. What do you want? What I've always wanted. Justice. My wife and children died in that airstrike because of intelligence you provided. You killed them as surely as if you'd pulled the trigger yourself. Eddie kept his voice steady. That was war, Hassan. Your bombs killed Marines, young men with families. War, Hassan laughed bitterly. You call it war when America brings death to foreign soil. I call it murder. And now you'll understand what it feels like to lose the innocent ones you love. The children coming tomorrow had nothing to do with Iraq. Neither did mine. Eddie calculated distance, angles, cover positions. Hassan's 2 companions were armed, alert, positioned to cover the exits. But Eddie had advantages they didn't know about. He knew every inch of this building, and his military supplies would arrive within the hour. I came alone, as you asked, Eddie said. Let's finish this between us. Oh, we will. But first, I want you to see something. Hassan pulled out a tablet and showed Eddie a video feed. Lisa, Jack, and Emma, tied up in what looked like a warehouse. They're safe for now. But at 10:31 a.m., if those children die in this bowling alley, your family joins them. Eddie's jaw tightened. What do you want me to do? I want you to choose, Eddie. Save the 300 children you don't know, or save the 3 people you love most. You have until sunrise to decide. Hassan turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Eddie, I know about your military supplies. My men are watching every approach to this building. If anyone comes to help you, everyone dies immediately. After Hassan left, Eddie sat in the darkness of Lane 42, surrounded by enough explosives to level half the city block. He thought about Lisa teaching second grade, about Jack's Little League games, about Emma's piano recitals. Then he thought about 3 children who would arrive in 7 hours, excited for a field trip they'd never forget. At 2:30 a.m., Eddie heard a soft sound at the rear emergency exit. He found a military duffel bag with everything Thompson had promised: radio frequency scanner, specialized wire cutters, electromagnetic pulse generator, and a tablet with detailed schematics of Al-Rashid's known bomb designs. Eddie smiled grimly. Time to go to work. He started with the most accessible devices, using the frequency scanner to map their electronic signatures. Hassan's bombs were sophisticated, but they followed a pattern. Each device had 3 triggers: timer, motion sensor, and radio receiver. But they also had a vulnerability. Eddie had worked with similar designs in Iraq. Al-Rashid was brilliant, but he was also obsessive. He used the same frequency for all his radio triggers, the same type of motion sensor, the same brand of timer. If Eddie could generate an electromagnetic pulse at exactly the right frequency, he could disable the radio receivers without triggering the motion sensors. But he had to work fast, and he had to be perfect. One mistake would detonate every bomb simultaneously. Starting at 3 a.m., Eddie began the most delicate work of his life. Device by device, he carefully disabled the radio receivers, then the motion sensors, then finally removed the timers. Bomb 1, clear. Bomb 3, clear. Bomb 2, clear. By 6 a.m., Eddie had disarmed 43 devices. His hands were steady, his mind focused, but sweat poured down his face. 104 bombs remained, and the school buses would arrive in 4 hours. That's when his phone rang. Eddie? Lisa's voice, terrified but trying to stay calm. Lisa, are you hurt? Are the kids? We're okay, Dad. But there are men here with guns, and they say if you don't do exactly what they want, they'll... The phone was taken away. Hassan's voice. Time's running out, Eddie. Save your family or save strangers. Choose. Eddie closed his eyes and made the hardest decision of his life. Hassan, I'll make you a deal. Meet me at lane 1. Just you and me. If you kill me, you get your revenge and the bombs go off. If I kill you, you call off your men and release my family. You're 68 years old, Eddie. I'm not. I'm also the man who outsmarted you in Iraq. Care to try again? A pause. Lane 1, 5 minutes. Eddie placed the EMP generator in the center of the bowling alley, set to detonate on a timer. If he could keep Hassan talking for 10 minutes, the pulse would disable every remaining bomb simultaneously. Hassan entered through the front door, alone as promised. You always were arrogant, Eddie, and you always were predictable. Same bomb design, same frequency, same obsessive attention to patterns. What are you talking about? Eddie smiled and showed him the deactivated bomb from Ball 12. I've been dismantling your devices for 3 hours. 90% of them are already neutralized. Hassan's face went pale. Impossible. You're good, Hassan, but I'm better. I always was. Hassan pulled a gun, but Eddie was ready. 20 years of cleaning floors had kept him agile, and muscle memory from Delta Force made him lethal even at 68. The fight was brief and decisive. When it ended, Hassan was unconscious and zip-tied with electrical cord from the pin-setting machinery. The EMP generator activated at exactly 7:00 a.m., sending an electromagnetic pulse throughout the building that disabled every remaining electronic device. Eddie called Thompson. "It's done. Send the bomb squad to clean up and get the FBI to Hassan's warehouse. My family's there." At 10 a.m., exactly as scheduled, 3 yellow school buses pulled up to Strike Zone Bowling Alley. 300 excited children poured out, ready for their field trip. They found Eddie Martinez mopping the floors, humming softly to himself, looking like exactly what he appeared to be, a 68-year-old janitor who took pride in keeping things clean. Lisa arrived 20 minutes later with Jack and Emma, all three safe and unharmed, thanks to the FBI raid on the warehouse. "Dad," Lisa said, hugging him tightly, "the FBI said you saved everyone. They said you were some kind of war hero." Eddie looked at his grandchildren, who were already asking if they could try bowling. "I'm just the janitor, sweetheart. I keep things clean." But as Jack rolled his first ball down lane 1, Eddie noticed something that made him smile. The boy's form was perfect, his focus complete, his follow-through textbook. Some skills, Eddie thought, run in the family. Hassan Al-Rashid was sentenced to life in federal prison. The terrorist cell was dismantled, their network exposed. Eddie Martinez returned to his night shift at Strike Zone Bowling Alley, where he continues to clean lanes, sanitize shoes, and polish bowling balls. The children never knew how close they came to tragedy that day. And Eddie likes it that way. Some heroes wear uniforms. Others wear janitor's clothes and carry mop buckets. But all of them understand that the most important battles are the ones nobody ever hears about. So I ask you, have you ever met someone like Eddie? Someone whose ordinary job hid an extraordinary past? Share their story in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. Because here at Human Stories, we believe that true heroism often wears work clothes and punches a time clock. Subscribe if this story moved you. Hit that notification bell. And remember, sometimes the person keeping your world clean has already saved it once. Until next time.